You are Locked On NFL Draft, your daily podcast covering the NFL Draft. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
What's up, Locked On family? Let's get locked in. Welcome to the Locked On NFL Draft Saturday college football live stream. You already know what time it is. I'm your boy, Damian Parson, always on the ones and twos. You know what I mean? National Scout over with the Draft Network. And, of course, I got my guy, my partner in crime, my brother, Keith Sanchez, Mr. LSU. You can find us both on Twitter at DP_NFL, as well as the Talent Code. Guys, what we always tell you, if you're new here, subscribe to the channel, all right? Like the video, everything, hop into the comments. We'll talk to us because we do talk back. And, of course, for the algorithm, comment, do all that good stuff, man. But, Keith, bro, another beautiful Saturday. Man. How we feeling?
Oh, DP, like we said, man, it's Saturday. College football is on, man. Life is good. It is what it should be, DP. Man, we have a heck of a slate, right, for our Saturday live show, man. We're going to start this thing off with Duke versus Notre Dame. Then we have a LSU versus Ole Miss matchup. Then we going to do what we do, right? You released the tally last week on this show. It was on Saturday. It was on a live show. You released the tally. So we're going to go through, man, facing the spread and game picks. DP, let's start this thing off at the top, right? College game day is over there. The Duke versus Notre Dame. Notre Dame lost a gut-wrenching, right? A game that they should have won. It was in prime position to win the game. And then you had this Duke team, right? It's just kind of they're trying to play the role of spoiler slash the team that nobody was expecting, right? Behind Riley Leonard, their quarterback, who a lot of people are moving up their draft board. So this is definitely, I feel like this is a resume game. So I want to start with Riley Leonard and the quarterback for Duke. What are some of the things that you want to see from him? What are the things have you seen from him thus far?
I mean, he's done exactly what I told Clemson fans on when I was doing the Locked On Clemson show, that he's a dual threat quarterback. He can really hurt you with his legs, and he can thrive off of that, right? I think the big thing for me is, Keith, you look at his numbers here on the season, passing wise, or, 67 of 101, right? 101 attempts, 67 completions, 777 yards. That might be a number that you play in the lottery and see if you can hit big when you guys triple sevens like that. And then he's got 6 total touchdowns. I'll put total because he's got 4 rushing, 2 passing. Keith, from a passing aspect, Riley hasn't been the most productive quarterback. He's been solid, right? His big matchup was week 1 against Clemson, which they got the upset, they got the win, and it was a great team win, but his performance was more so legs, improvising with his legs and making plays as a runner, where especially like that third quarter when Clemson turned the ball over back-to-back times, that passing offense could barely move the ball. So when I look at, I think it's our guy over at ESPN, Jordan Reed, had, kind of projections of where quarterbacks in this class would be drafted. He had Riley Leonard over a guy like Spencer Rattler. And to me, Spencer Rattler has played far better football than a Riley Leonard, right? So this is a game where if you're Riley Leonard, right, and I think they talked about on game day how he has his mom text him, "You suck," before every game to kind of ground him, right? Like, you know what I'm saying? You're reading somebody's tweet, a draft analyst saying you could be a top 15 pick, and then the text come in right after that from mom saying you suck. That's a good way to keep you grounded and not get your head too blown up. But I think for him, man, this is a statement game, Keith. He has to prove that top 15 potential hype for him is legitimate, because he's got to do more in the passing game, especially in this game tonight.
Yeah, I agree 100%. And I'm just, like you said, you look at the stats, right? And the Clemson game, right? The Clemson game, he won that game with his legs because there was eight rushes for 98 yards and a touchdown, right? And then you look at, he had another game against Northwestern, right, where he had 13 rushes for 97 yards. And I mean, even his biggest output so far, DP, has been against UConn, passing yardage wise, and he threw for 248 yards, 1 touchdown, no interceptions, right? So I'm right there with you from the perspective of Riley Leonard, right? Him being able to play against this Notre Dame defense. If I'm Notre Dame, I'm probably keeping it fairly simple, right? and then I'm making you try to throw the football, right? Like that's what I want to do. I'm gonna try to take away your legs, and I want to see because, like you said, we do this. There's a Locked On NFL Draft, right? We're talking about draft prospects. We're talking about college football. We're talking about projections, and how do you project a guy, right? When we're talking about he's athletic, but we haven't seen the arm talent to all three levels of the field, right? And us as draft analysts, all we want to do is see the full picture, right? Once we get the full picture, then we can start to determine and say, hey, if we like that piece of art or if we don't. But right now, this is an incomplete picture when it comes to Riley Leonard and what he's able to offer. So, DP, we're talking about Riley Leonard. I want to switch, right? Because Notre Dame has a quarterback, Sam Hartman, but it also Notre Dame has players, right? There's Joe Oat, there's Blake Fisher. So they have a bunch of players on that side of the football, and just the rebound perspective, DP, how these guys get back going, right? Because when you have that many players, is almost like a national championship-esque type threshold for them because they don't have conference championships, right? So for them, this national championship is where they get their, I guess their only means of accomplishment for the season.
No, I think for Notre Dame, it's coming out and being physical, right? This is a Duke defense that allowed Clemson, and Clemson's offensive line is solid, Keith. This is a solid offensive line. It's not Notre Dame's offensive line, right?
Yeah.
So you allow Clemson to run for over 200 yards. I'm expecting a big game from this fella here, man. Audric Estime, Keith.
Yeah.
76 carries, 591 rush yards, 5 total touchdowns. But I think what's really big with him, 5'11", let's say 5'11", 227. So he's almost 230 pounds. Talking about that bowling ball, J.K. Dobbins, Ray Rice type of build. Now I don't think he's the receiver that those guys are. It has the shiftiness that they have, but he's a load of a human being. He's a horse, man, trying to go downhill, work downhill, and there's a linebacker trying to play the alley, run the alley, and meet him in the lane. Like I was watching some of the tape, and him versus Navy, safety came down, he just ran straight through the tackle, and it just kept pushing, right? And if Will Shipley and Phil Maffa was going to give you trouble, I expect Audric Estime to give you all types of issues with this offensive line. Like you said, Blake Fisher and Joe Alt. I think that's how they get back on the horse. You take the frustration of losing that game on the final drive. If you're Notre Dame, you take it personal and you come out and you play physical football. You play physical football. And Dwayne Carter, for NFL draft fans, we all know interior defensive linemen get paid in the league. You need good interior defensive linemen. He's one of the best in the country, right? Like his numbers this year have tapered off a little bit, but that's also because they played subpar competition outside of Clemson, where he hasn't played the normal amount of snaps as he's accustomed to. In this game, he's playing all game. Like, you know what I mean? This is Notre Dame. This is not Webster State. You know what I mean? This isn't ICDC College. You're playing Notre Dame all 4 quarters, so I expect him to try and have a big impact. But if they run that ball, man, it's going to be a long day for that defensive line for the Duke Blue Devils, right? And keep Riley Leonard off the field, ground and pound, and then give Sam Hartman those play action opportunities that he's very, very good at.
Yeah, I agree. And that's the way that they picked this stuff up, because I think that this is because Duke has beaten Clemson, right? But we've seen that Clemson is not Clemson of 5 years ago, right? There are a lot of issues across the board for them. And so you look at it and you say, okay, like this is their next biggest opponent, Notre Dame. And I think Notre Dame, they're going to enter this game, DP, with just a more calculated approach, right? Like the identity is there. They know exactly who they are. So I'm with you. I'm right there. I'm expecting a lot of run game. I'm expecting Sam Hartman to have somewhat of a bounce back game too. Never thought Sam Hartman was going to be a first round caliber type quarterback, right? But is he one of those guys with Aiden O'Connell, doing what he did for the, doing what he's doing for the Raiders? Is he one of those guys that, their draft stock elevates just a little bit to the potentially like 3rd, 4th round type of quarterback that, you have to pay attention to?
Keith, for Riley Leonard, right? Like you talk about his passing numbers. He's got a really good receiver in Jalen Calhoun. He's got to get him the football. He mostly works out of the slot. He can play outside and inside. He gives you that flexibility. They got to get him going right now. Like they have to get now. And the crazy thing about this now, this is a difficult passing defense to get going against, right? Like Grant, you're home on a night game, but Benjamin Morrison, Xavier Watts, Cam Hart, these guys can cover. And Jalen Calhoun only has 20 receptions, 258 receiving yards, and 1 total touchdown on the season. He's a good route runner. He's got quick twitch ability. Like I said, I think he's a punt and kick returner as well. He gives you that type of special teams ability. He's a big play waiting to happen. He can create explosive plays in the passing game. They're going to have to. Graham Barton on that offensive line being a guy that has first round buzz.
Yep, another key person.
Another key person to help Riley Leonard stay protected. If they can protect Riley Leonard, if he can get the ball to Jalen Calhoun early and often, Keith, that'll be big because they need each other, right? We always talk about how receivers need quarterbacks. Well, Riley Leonard is going to need Jalen Calhoun, and I think the other young man is Jordan Moore, who's a former quarterback converted to wide receiver. They're going to need both of those wide receivers to show up. And if you're only, I don't expect, because last week, Benjamin Morrison and Cam Hart faced off with Emeka Egbuka and Marvin Harrison Jr. Benjamin Morrison was very good in that game, by the way. MHJ had his success and everything, but then he ended up having probably a sprained ankle, I think is what it was. He still played, but like Benjamin Morrison was pretty good in that game. Those guys live on the outside, Keith. You know what I'm saying? Jalen Calhoun, the number one receiver for this offense, is a more so inside receiver. So I'm expecting Xavier Watts, who's kind of that. We all know every defense has him. That safety, hybrid nickel, strong safety that can play down in the box, play man-to-man coverage, come walk down into the nickel against slot receivers. It's going to be really like they have to. If you limit Jalen Calhoun in the passing game, I think Riley Leonard has a very, very ugly game. I think he has a tough day. Very, very similar to Clemson. He targeted that man 10 times versus Andrew Makuba. And Andrew Makuba had him locked down. And the passing game just did not move the needle in that matchup. You can't do that against this Notre Dame offense that will play action you, that will pound the football and beat you into submission. Duke's got to live off that crowd, but they got to score, Keith, and they got to score early.
Yeah, I agree with DP. I think that's gonna be a heck of a game. It's gonna be a fun game to try to see. And then if anything happens on Duke's level, right, you have to think it'll be because of Riley Leonard's athletic ability and his scrambling ability to kind of make these off-script plays against this Notre Dame defense. But man, let's keep this thing going, right? And we're gonna go to I think the Duke Notre Dame game, right? The over-under will probably be around 45-ish, 50, right? We're about to transition to this LSU.
We about to parts of it, FanDuel.
Right. We're about to transition to this LSU Ole Miss game, DP, where the over-under is probably somewhere around 70, right? 70 to 80 points, because we're going to two explosive offenses. Ole Miss faced off against Alabama last week. It was a close game, but offensively, everything did not get turning, right? And we talked about that. And then we got this LSU team, right, who at home, they won. They drove the ball and held the ball, kicked the last second field goal to beat Arkansas. It was at home. It was a high-scoring game, right? So I'm gonna set the tables for both teams, DP. The narrative for LSU, right? And I'm 15 minutes away from Tiger Stadium. We have offense. We don't have a defense. LSU hasn't seen this, right? Like that is not historically what LSU. If anything, it's been the polar opposite. We've always had a shutdown defense and not a great offense, right? But now this offense is humming, DP. And then you're going against an Ole Miss team where Lane Kiffin, he can scheme some stuff up, right? But the question is this: how long do they believe in Jackson Dart, right? Because it seems like he's good against the average opponents, but then when you need him to take the next step against the great opponents, it's just not there. So DP, let's start off with this LSU narrative first and the conversation about them, because we talked about offensively and defensively. I'm gonna let you choose which side you want to go with first.
Oh, I'm going offense. I'm gonna talk about Jaden Daniels, right? Like Jaden Daniels, we talk about so many quarterbacks. Like this class is loaded with QB talent, right? But the one guy that doesn't get mentioned enough or a lot is Jaden Daniels. Jaden Daniels on the season, Keith, 90 for 126, 1,295 passing yards, 14 total touchdowns, 12 passing, 2 rushing. And what I really appreciate about his game this year, Keith, last year he ran the ball for over 1,000 yards and 11 touchdowns. He's nowhere near that pace right now. He is working as a quarterback and playing passing first. Yeah, he's still athletic. He's still dynamic and can make those same plays we saw last year in the run game. He can still make those plays. But to me, I feel like in this offense, I feel like he's more in control. more like just kind of grounded, and he's playing within the offense, and he's balling right now, Keith. He's playing absolutely really strong football. Then he's got two wide receivers that balling too. Brian Thomas, Malik Neighbors.
Yeah, you can't mention Jaden Daniels without mentioning Malik Neighbors, right? Because probably 400 of those passing yards came from him just throwing the ball, just throwing it to Malik Neighbors somewhere around him, right? Like, and that's just being completely honest. So I agree, DP. This offense looks well. They're mixing in the running game at certain levels. Jay Daniels is not. So when you watch him, right, even as a runner, because you spoke about that, it's not that he's an extremely explosive runner, right? It's not that he's this big, powerful guy. He's just slippery, right? Like he's just, and it's not even that you get Lamar Jackson-esque elusiveness. It's just his ability to just break tackles by just being this slippery guy that's very difficult to tackle. So that's going to be interesting, just him in the open field against this Ole Miss defense, how they're able to tackle him, DP. And then also, I want to flip to talk about LSU's defense. They have to figure that out, DP. And LSU's defense is in a place that I may have not been since, trying to think, before Nick Saban, right? What I'm saying is that we can't, there's not an emphasis on playing man-to-man defense, right? There's so much zone that's being played, and that zone that's getting exploited, and you wonder, okay, we playing zone because we don't feel like we have the guys to play man. Now, this is the thing. If you playing all that zone, Lane Kiffin sitting on the other sideline like, I got something for you, right? I have a cover 3 beat, I have a cover 4 beat, I have a cover 6 beater. And you give me any zone coverage, I can scheme some stuff up. So I think this is going to be a rather fun game, DP. I think it's going to be an exciting game. I believe it kicks out at 5 o'clock Central Time, 6 o'clock Eastern. So I'm definitely looking at Ole Miss's ability to tackle, and then LSU's defense, right? So it's going to come down to both the defenses who I think will make the most plays.
And Keith, I wanted to ask you, right? Because I've seen a lot of people complain. I've had a run-in with someone who covers LSU. He was complaining about how LSU uses Harold Perkins, right? And I was watching it, and I'm gonna tell you something, Keith. And yeah, I'm going there. If I feel what LSU's using him as, like that off-ball backer, then on third downs he's rushing the passer, right? It's very Micah Parsons-esque. It's very Micah Parsons-esque. Where now, granted, Micah Parsons is like 240, probably 250 at this point, so he could play full-time edge. Heck, he lined up on some guards and whooped them. You know what I mean? Handle the run game and everything. He's a bigger body. But I like the way that they use Perkins, and I say keep doing it, Keith. You can say that I'm a little selfish as a draft analyst because I do want to see him have the best potential success. He is to 225, 228, somewhere in there. So you're not gonna play him full time as an edge rusher in the NFL, right? Unless you feel he could truly hold up against the best blocking tight ends and those, you know what I'm saying? That type of stuff. If you feel like he can do it, fine. But I feel like, all right, we know he's a very, very good pass rusher. But I'm seeing things on tape watching him where I'm like, okay, he's actually developing the read and react skills, the play recognition, playing off-ball backer with his athleticism, explosiveness, trigger downhill. I have no problem with him playing both positions. You know what I'm saying? I have no problem playing both positions at all, man. But I wanted to ask you, should they play him more as an edge in your opinion, or are you cool with how they're using them?
Yeah, so the edge conversation comes from two things, especially with LSU fans, right? One, the ability to get a pass rush, right? And then two, the understanding of, and I don't want to say this in a perspective of that I'm diminishing people's football acumen, right? It's not that, but there's an element that's not being said from, I believe, right, when I watch it, the coaching staff. And that's the size factor that he is. If he's listed at 6'1", 220, right? I usually say you take an inch and 10 pounds off, right? That sometimes he's an inch and 10 pounds away from being 6 foot 210, right? That's Jamar Chase, right? That's a wide receiver. So my point is that, okay, fine. You want him to play edge? Put him at edge, right? Now, what happens when you play Texas A&M, when you play Alabama, when you play Florida, and you play Auburn, and all they're doing is running counters his way, right? And now he's the guy that's getting kicked out, right? Or just things, or you can put a tight end on him, and you can let the tackle work to the next level, to the stack backwards, right? And you don't have to worry about it. So I think what is happening, DP, is that this coaching staff is thinking about, okay, the path moving forward. How do we get Howard Perkins in the most effective spot? Because it's this one trick that he has, right? But that can potentially cost us also. So it's like, where can we put him to where he's in a stable position for himself, but also for our defense, right? And I think that's the part that fans are not looking at. They're just looking at it like, hey, we have the best pass rush. And it's like, okay, cool. But you know what? If we don't pass the ball, people can run the football, right? Like, people can just line up and run the football at us. And we know we're talking about the SEC. So we're talking about big offensive linemen. We're talking about run game. So you can expect that to happen. So I think that's the aspect that people aren't thinking about. As far as the stack backer, I think he needs to, because just from the perspective of, like you said, even the next level, like if I'm this young man and I'm consulting and I'm tutoring, and he's confiding and asking me for information, I'm saying, yes, allow LSU to put you as a third down rusher. First and second down, you need to develop your skills as a stack backer so you can develop from that perspective, because that's what you're going to have to do in the NFL, right? You're not going to be 215 pounds and rush the quarterback. It just won't happen. So I'm all about allowing him to do that.
Yeah, that's how I look at it too, Keith. Like, unless he bulks up, which, you look at his frame, I think I'm not gonna say he's maxed out, but he has a strong frame. He just doesn't weigh what you want him to weigh to be able to handle the rigors of playing the run game.
It's not mass, right? It's strength, and he's a well put together athlete. You just don't know if it's the mass that you're talking about, like you say, with a Michael Parsons, who Michael Parsons could probably get up to 280 if he wanted to, right? Like, because he's just a naturally bigger guy throughout. But DP, man, we talked about Notre Dame, Duke, we talked about LSU, Ole Miss. Let's get into the rest of these picks, man, because I think when I looked at them, DP, this can be one of those upset weeks. That's what I seen. I'm like, okay, there's some couple upsets brewing out there. So DP, I want to kick this thing off with our facing the spread and game picks.
Let's do it, man. I'm gonna tell you, Keith, it wasn't great for me last week, right? It was not great for me. I took some swings that I probably shouldn't have taken, right? Like Colorado, for one.
Alabama.
Do that again. You know what I'm saying? That was a disaster for me, Keith. But last week, when we look at we both picked Ole Miss to cover the spread. That didn't happen. Yeah. So the spread in terms of facing the spread, our record is I'm 2-3, you're 1-4, right? So we're both going to lose into this thing. Yeah, facing the spread. Man. Yeah, no, we started off well. We did, and then these past couple of weeks, the spreads whooped us. No lie. So let's get into the spread for today. The spread for the day, we got Kansas versus Texas, right? And this is a ranked matchup, by the way. I think Kansas ranked 24th, and Texas is inside the top 10 somewhere.
Both undefeated. Yep.
Both undefeated, right? Our partners at FanDuel Sportsbook has Texas as a 16.5-point favorite over Kansas. Texas 16.5. So that's over 2 touchdowns. Keith, almost 2 touchdowns in the field goal. Keith, do you think, are you picking against the spread or with the spread? You think Texas can cover this against this Kansas offense that's very, very dangerous? Or are you picking Kansas?
I'm going with Kansas, man. I think Jalen Daniels, I think this offense with their head coach, I'm blanking on his name right now. They are creative enough. And this is what happens, DP. Like, it's just how fans can feel it in the building, right? And I mean, fans can feel it on the outside where it's like, oh man, this is a big rivalry week, or we have, this big opponent, right? So you're a little bit more excited. You're a little bit more excited to tailgate. Guess what? Coaches are the same way. You know what I'm saying? Like when you're playing a big opponent, they're in the building an extra 30, 45 minutes or an hour or two, right? They're looking at, okay, what other play could I draw up? So I think Kansas is going to give Texas all they can handle. I think it's going to be a couple, and we know that this Kansas offense does this anyway, right? A couple trick plays, a couple tackle over type designs. So they're going to try to give this Texas team all they can handle. And then also, this is the other thing that Texas showed well last week. But in their past, 2-3 games outside of the Bama game, I believe, they start slow, right? Like it's been a couple games this past year, the past couple weeks that they've started really slow. And this is not a good team to start slow with because Jalen Daniels, as a draft prospect, we'll figure that part out. But as a college quarterback, he's one of those guys that'll give your defense headaches because he can make plays with his legs.
Yeah, him, Devin Neal, the running back.
Mm-hmm.
I'm with you, Keith. I'm going with Kansas. I may pick. We're gonna pick this game in a little bit or in just a second, but the 16.5, I feel like that's disrespectful, man. Like Kansas offense can put up points, and we talked about it. Like I think we previewed one of their games, the first game that they came back, that he came back in. I think it was the Illinois game. He came back. That was his first game of the season, and against a good Illinois defense with NFL talent on it, Kansas offense showed what they can do. And Jalen Daniels, Devin Neal, I'm picking those guys. Like I said, the spread 16.5, that's just a little too rich for my blood. Give me Kansas on this situation, Keith. But let's pick this game. You look at the situation with Kansas. Like I said, two ranked teams. Texas is home. It's a 3:30 p.m. Eastern game on ABC. 24 ranked Kansas heading into Texas against some number 3 ranked Longhorns. Keith, who you picking?
I'm going to pick Texas to win the game. And if there's one game that I'm like soft circling as an upset, it's this game right here because I think Kansas offense can go in there. The only reason if this was at Kansas, I would definitely pick it. The only reason why I'm picking Texas is because it's a home game.
Yeah, I'm picking Texas too. I'm a little weary because they got the Riverboat rivalry or whatever it's called with Oklahoma next week.
Red River
I
rivalry.
Make sure I said that right.
Red
I don't
River
want.
rivalry.
I wonder, like, will they look past Kansas a little bit, right? Will they kind of look, all right, Kansas is they're a good story, but we're Texas, right? We got Dylan Gabriel, we got Brent Venables and that Oklahoma team who's undefeated right now. Them coming, we have this matchup next week. Will they look past Kansas early in this game, and could they put themselves in like harm's way for a potential, like you talk about, for an upset, right? If you let a team that you feel you're better than hang around too long and they get not just confidence, but rhythm, play calling is flowing, players are executing, and now you find yourself in a dogfight. You can't corral them. I'm a little weary with that, but Texas being home, they got too many dudes, you know what I'm saying, on their team, offense and defense. So I'm gonna go with Texas as well, Keith. I'm gonna go with Texas as well. Let's get into, and Keith, this is a game that when I looked at it, they're not ranked, but I think it could be a good one. South Carolina at Tennessee. Tennessee's ranked 21st. You got Joe Milton at quarterback versus Spencer Rattler, a guy that people still not giving his just due. Keith, who are you picking in this game?
I'm picking South Carolina. I'm picking South Carolina to win this game. I seen enough from what I needed to see from Tennessee last week versus Florida. This is not the Tennessee offense last year. Hendon Hooker was probably a lot better than what people gave him or the match or the fit that they had because Joe Milton has all the physical skills, right? It's just something missing, right? It's just something missing over there in Tennessee. I'm picking Spencer Rattler. I think the Gamecocks, they get up for this game. They want this game. They smell blood in the water, and they have the approach of if Florida beat them, we could beat them, right? And they're going to want this game. So I'm picking South Carolina.
Yeah, I'm going SC as well, man. I everything you said, I agree with, right? Joe Milton has all the physical. He's more physically gifted than Hendon is. Better athlete, bigger arm, bigger body, but it just looks so different. And I know Cedric Tillman ain't there, and Jalen Hyatt's in the NFL as well. Darnell Wright's going to the league. I get it. But you still got Brew McCoy, Squirrel White. You got talent, man. You still got talent. This is a offense that's very QB friendly, but it just doesn't look like the QB's friendly to the system. So I'm going SC as well. I think Spencer Rattler is going to keep flying under the radar until draft season approaches and people start getting into the tape. Say, hey, man, that was that guy we said was going to be first overall pick. He's still pretty good. So I'm going to go with the South Carolina Gamecocks. Keith, game we just talked about facing the spread. LSU, not facing the spread, but we talked about in the last segment. LSU versus Ole Miss. And I think this game is in Ole Miss, if I'm looking at if I saw it correctly.
Yeah, yes. It's at Ole Miss. Yeah,
it's at Ole Miss. Keith, who you picking in this game?
Oh man, the last time I picked a Mississippi school to win against LSU was Mississippi State, and that turned out to be a disaster. DP. So I'm gonna go with LSU, but I'm extremely reluctant. This just has all the makings of Ole Miss winning this football game. But I'm gonna just go with LSU's offense is hot right now, and then be able to pull something off. But I would not be surprised if Ole Miss wins.
Yeah, I'm going LSU as well. I think with Jackson Dart, I was riding high. I was rolling with him. You know what I'm saying? I was rolling with him. Then he went into the Alabama game, and he let me down, Keith. You know what I'm saying? He let me down, and I was just like, you know what, Jackson? I'm not gonna keep doing this with you. I'm not gonna keep believing that you're gonna take that step, and then you get it against Nick Saban and company, and you don't even take steps. You start crawling.
Last year was the same exact thing. I think they came to LSU and they were up maybe like 10, 17 points, and then they relinquished the lead, and then it just spiraled, right? They just spiraled downhill from there. But I like I keep saying, I am concerned about this LSU defense. So
yeah, I don't want to say I'm out in Jackson Dart. You know, I'm not gonna say that yet, but I'm getting closer and closer to, my bags are packed now. You know what I'm saying? My bags are packed. I got them downstairs. I'm just saying, listen, you go with the bed one more time, and I'm walking out the door on Jackson Dart, man. I'm walking out the door on Jackson Dart, Keith. I can't do it, man. But like I said, we got another game to get into, Keith. And it's probably the game. I mean, you would say this is the game of the week, right? Like, you know what I'm saying? And that's Notre Dame going on the road, night game at Duke. We talked about it at the beginning of the show. Riley Leonard, Sam Hartman, Joe Alt, Blake Fisher, Audric Estime, Jalen Calhoun, Cam, all these NFL draft prospects, Graham Barton. For anybody that likes old line play, keep your eye on left tackle. I personally think he's going to probably play guard at the next level, but he's going to be a really good offensive lineman at the next level, in my honest opinion. Keith, who you picking, Duke or Notre Dame?
I'm going with Notre Dame. I think Notre Dame is going to be a ball-controlled football game. I haven't seen everything I need to see to say this Duke offense is explosive, right? Or see the different elements of Riley Leonard. If Duke wins this game, it's going to be because Riley Leonard showed us something that he hasn't showed thus far throughout this season. So I'm going with Notre Dame. Like I said, I think they run a rock. I think Sam Hartman is efficient. He's battle-tested. They're going to go into Duke, and they're going to get this game.
Yeah, Keith, I'm going to tell you right now, man, I'm going Notre Dame as well. I think it could be a good game, especially early on. The crowd will be rocking, the emotions for the players. You know that what it's like in a night game atmosphere like that, ranked matchup. Everybody's going to be on 10, on 1,000 early, right? It's like, how can Notre Dame sustains and gets past that wave of emotions early on. Now it becomes all about football and talent and execution. And when that happens, I think Notre Dame will be able to out-execute, out-coach. I love Mike Elko. Marcus Freeman's a great coach. Two outstanding coaches on the sidelines. But I'm going to go Notre Dame as well, Keith. And I've talked about him. I've mentioned them multiple times on the pod and on these Saturday shows. Riley Mills, defensive tackle, defensive lineman from Notre Dame, 7 hurries, 3 QB hits, and a sack on the season. And his pass rush win rate is a little over 23 right now. Man, I'm watching out for him. This young man be able to collapse the pocket, right? Get into the face of Riley Leonard. Now, got to tackle him, because if you don't tackle that big boy, he will get out and get busy in open field. But I think stopping the run, stopping the running back, the traditional run, getting inside zone, but also stopping that QB keeper up the middle, up the gut, will be big for this Notre Dame defense. I think they'll be able to out-coach, out-execute, and just out-physical this Duke team at home. And then Duke kind of comes down back to earth a little bit from being undefeated. So I'm picking Notre Dame in this game. So, Keith, man, we picked the same teams. You know what I'm saying? We picked the exact same teams this week. And we're going to see how this goes. You know what I'm saying? We're going to see how this goes. Either way, I'll be up in the standings if we lose out or we win out.
Yeah, that's why I don't know if I should have picked against you, so I could, potentially try to catch up. I needed to try to catch up some way.
Listen,
I might text you at the last minute right before kickoff for the LSU Ole Miss game.
It's already on wax. It's on YouTube.
I might text you at the last minute.
But the crazy thing about it, man, you literally only a couple games back. You only a couple games back. So you know what I'm saying? Because me, I'm gonna take some swings as the season progresses. I'm not gonna pick Colorado against a high-powered team again. Like, that's not gonna happen. But I'm gonna take some swings and see how it shakes out. But guys, listen, that's our show, man. Previewing week 5 of college football. Man, it feels like it just started, but we already at 5 weeks. We already 5 weeks in, or about to be 5 weeks in, man. But listen, subscribe if you're new here. Subscribe to the channel. All right, like the video, comment on the comment section on YouTube, man. Not only just subscribe to the channel, but hit the bell notification so you're notified whenever we drop content on the channel. We have a daily podcast that we drop every single day, Monday through Friday, man. Become one of our everydayers. All right, we shout y'all out every week. We appreciate everybody that taps in and that tweets at us and everything else like that from stuff that you hear on the show and that you really appreciate. We appreciate y'all, man. Keith always tell y'all, follow us on Twitter, talk to us. We do talk back. Keith Sanchez at The Talent Code. Me, Damian Parson, DP_NFL. Keith, you got any final words for the fam?
Yeah, man, like we always say, man, thank you for tapping in with us. Like you said, man, we do this Monday through Friday, and we've added the Saturday live show. So make sure next time y'all jump in, talk to us. Make sure y'all hit the comment button, comment, talk to us. We'll pull it up. We'll pull up on a live stream. So if y'all have y'all different opinions about something, man, jump in there. But like we always say, man, thank you for coming to talk to us.
For sure, for sure. Listen, guys, enjoy your Saturday. Be safe, eat good food, grab some drinks, enjoy college football. From DP, from Keith, we out, fam.